The wind howled across the frozen plains of IV like a hungry animal. Snow and ice covered everything as far as the eye could see. Mountains of blue ice rose in the distance, and the sky was always gray. No sun ever broke through the thick clouds. It was a dead world, cold and empty, and that was exactly why Sung had chosen to live here. 3 years ago, he had arrived on this frozen planet with nothing but a small bag and a heart full of pain. The Unification Wars had taken everything from him: his friends, his purpose, his ability to sleep without screaming. The military had given him a metal arm to replace the one he lost in battle, but they could not give him back the pieces of his soul that had died with his unit. So he ran. He ran to the edge of known space, to a place where no one would find him, where no one would ask questions, where he could be alone with his ghosts. His job was simple. He lived in a small outpost between two glacial mountains and monitored weather patterns for a terraforming company. They paid him just enough to survive. He sent reports once a week. No one called. No one visited. The silence was his only friend. On the night everything changed, Sung was sitting in his small room, eating tasteless protein rations and staring at the wall. The wind was louder than usual, shaking the walls of his outpost. His monitoring equipment beeped softly in the corner, recording temperature and wind speed like it always did. Then something strange happened. A new signal appeared on his screen. It was not weather data. It was something else entirely. The signal was weak and broken, coming from somewhere to the north. His computer tried to translate it but struggled with the ancient frequency. 3 words finally appeared on the screen: "Please, help dying." Sung stared at those words for a long time. His first thought was to ignore it. He had come to this world to escape, to hide, to stop being a soldier. Whatever was sending that signal was not his problem. But the words kept repeating: "Please help dying." He thought about his dead friends. He thought about all the times he had wished someone would come to save them. He thought about the silence that followed their screams. "Damn it," he muttered, and began putting on his thermal suit. The journey north took 6 hours. Sung drove his crawler vehicle through the blinding snow, following the signal on his tracker. The temperature outside was 60 degrees below zero. Even with his suit, he could feel the cold trying to creep into his bones. The signal led him to the base of the largest ice mountain he had ever seen. A massive crack in the ice revealed the entrance to a cavern. Blue light glowed from somewhere deep inside. Sung checked his weapon, took a deep breath, and walked in. What he found inside stopped his heart. The cavern was enormous, bigger than any building he had ever seen. Crystals of ice covered the walls and ceiling, casting strange blue light everywhere. But that was not what made him freeze in place. In the center of the cavern, frozen in the ice, were dragons. Not exactly like the dragons from old Earth stories, but close enough. They had long serpentine bodies covered in scales that shimmered with colors he could not name. They had wings folded against their sides, small and delicate. Their faces were almost human in some ways, with large eyes and expressions that showed clear intelligence. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all frozen in perfect circles, arranged like the petals of a flower. And they were not dead. Sung realized this when he saw their eyes moving, following him, watching him with ancient, desperate hope. A sound came from his left. He turned and saw one of the creatures had partially freed herself from the ice. She was smaller than the others, her scales a deep purple that faded to silver at the edges. She was breathing heavily, and frost covered her snout. "You came," she said. Sung's translator device crackled with the words. Her voice was like music, soft and sad and beautiful all at once. "You speak my language?" he asked, his own voice shaking. "We have listened to your people's broadcasts for many years," the creature said. "We learned. We hoped. We sent the signal every day for 200 years. You are the first to answer." Sung looked around at all the frozen beings. What happened to you? Who are you? I took the name from your human stories. My people are the... She paused to catch her breath. The effort of staying unfrozen was clearly exhausting her. 400 years ago, we came to this world to hide. Our enemies were hunting us. We entered hibernation in the ice to survive. But the ice has grown too thick. Our young ones cannot break free. We are trapped. She pointed with one trembling claw toward the center of the cavern. Sung looked and saw smaller forms frozen there. Children, baby dragons, their eyes wide with fear, their mouths open in silent cries. One of them was barely bigger than a dog, a little girl dragon, frozen mid-scream. Something broke inside Sung's chest, something he thought had died long ago in the war. "We are dying," said her voice fatting. "The ice grows stronger, we grow weaker. Soon we will sleep forever. I sent the signal because I had nothing left to lose." She looked at him with eyes that held 400 years of loneliness. "I did not truly believe anyone would come." Sung thought about walking away. He thought about returning to his quiet outpost, his silent life, his peaceful waiting for death. Then he looked at the frozen child again. "Tell me what you need," he said. "Tell me how to save you." For the first time in 4 centuries, smiled. Explained everything while Sung listened carefully. They were not like normal creatures. Their bodies could survive extreme cold, but only if they stayed perfectly still. If someone tried to melt the ice with heat, the sudden temperature change would kill them instantly. Their scales, which looked so strong and beautiful, became as fragile as thin glass when they were sleeping. The only way to free them was to chip away the ice slowly, carefully, piece by piece. It would take incredible precision. One wrong move could crack their scales and kill them. "We need machines that can cut ice at the smallest level," said. "Tools that can shave away frozen water without touching our bodies. And we need someone patient enough to work for many days without rest." Sung nodded slowly. "I have some mining equipment at my outpost. I can modify it, but I am only one person. There are hundreds of you." "Start with the children," said, her voice cracked with emotion. "Please, save the children first." Sung returned to his outpost and immediately called the terraforming company that employed him. He explained what he had found. He described the ancient alien species frozen in the ice. He requested help, equipment, personnel. The response came 3 hours later from a bored-sounding manager. "These creatures are not in any official database," the manager said. "That means they have no legal status. No legal status means no company resources. If you want to play rescue hero, do it on your own time. Do not let it affect your weather reports." The call ended. Sung stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then he called the only person in the galaxy he still trusted. Bai appeared on his screen looking tired and surprised. She had been his during the war, the medic who had kept him alive after the ambush that killed everyone else. Now she worked as on a research station 2 systems away. "Sung, is that really you?" Her eyes went wide. "You look terrible. Are you sick?" "I need your help," he said, and told her everything. When he finished, Bai was silent for a very long time. She watched the video footage he had sent. She looked at the frozen dragons with an expression of pure wonder. "Sung," she finally whispered, "do you know what you have found? These creatures match descriptions from the precursor archives. They were supposed to be extinct for 10,000 years. They were the ones who created life on hundreds of planets. They are legends, myths, gods." "They are dying," Sung replied. "I do not care about legends. There is a child frozen in front of me. Can you help or not?" Bai promised to come immediately, but even at maximum speed, her ship would take 3 weeks to arrive. They did not have 3 weeks, was growing weaker every day. The ice was still spreading, still swallowing more of the dragons. So Sung did what soldiers learned to do. He worked with what he had. He modified his mining drills to cut at the smallest possible level. He built a frame that would hold the drill steady and move it with extreme precision. He tested his system on regular ice until he could shave away frozen water one thin layer at a time. Then he began working on the dragons. The first day, he freed a young male named Ho. The dragon had been frozen near the outer edge of the group, where the ice was thinnest. It took 14 hours of careful drilling, but finally Ho opened his eyes and took his first breath in 400 years. "Thank you," Ho whispered before falling into an exhausted sleep. Sung did not stop to rest. He moved to the next dragon. The days blurred together. 18 hours of drilling, 4 hours of sleep, then back to drilling. His food ran low, so he ate less. His body ached with exhaustion, but he ignored it. Every time he wanted to stop, he looked at the frozen children in the center of the cavern. On the 8th day, he freed his 10th dragon. On the 10th day, his equipment began to fail from the extreme cold. On the 12th day, disaster struck. Sung was working on freeing a dragon near the center of the cavern, getting closer to the children. His cybernetic arm had been malfunctioning all morning, the cold interfering with its circuits. He ignored the warning signs. He pushed forward. The drill slipped. A crack appeared in the ice, not around the dragon he was working on, but spreading outward toward the children, toward the smallest dragon, toward the little girl frozen mid-scream. Screamed. The sound was so full of terror and pain that Sung felt it in his bones. He watched the crack spread, unable to move, unable to breathe. The crack traveled across the ice like lightning, getting closer and closer to the child. Then it stopped, just a finger's width away from her fragile scales. The silence that followed was deafening. "She lives," said her voice shaking. "The crack did not reach her, she still lives." Sung fell to his knees. He had not realized he was crying until he felt the tears freezing on his cheeks. "I almost killed her," he whispered. "I am trying to save your people, and I almost killed a child." Crawled toward him, her movements slow and painful. She brought her great head down until her eyes were level with his. "You have worked for 12 days without rest," she said softly. "You have freed 15 of my people with broken tools and a wounded body. You weep for a child you have never met." Her scales flickered with warm colors. "Among my kind, this is not failure. This is the definition of courage." Sung looked at the frozen child, so close to death because of his mistake. "I cannot fail again," he said. "I will not fail again." He stood up, wiped his frozen tears, and got back to work. The days that followed were the hardest of Sung's life. He repaired his cybernetic arm using spare parts from his outpost. He reinforced his drilling equipment. He worked more carefully than before, checking every movement twice before cutting into the ice. Slowly, one by one, more woke from their 400-year sleep. During the brief moments when Sung allowed himself to rest, told him the history of her people. She spoke of times so ancient that even the oldest human civilizations were not yet born. "We were the gardeners of the universe," said one night, her voice soft with memory. "Our bodies can control heat and cold. We used this gift to make dead worlds alive. We warmed frozen planets until water could flow. We cooled burning worlds until life could grow. For millions of years, we traveled from star to star, planting the seeds of life everywhere we went." Sung listened while repairing a broken drill bit. "You created life on other planets." "On thousands of planets, maybe more. We lost count long ago." Scales dimmed with sadness. "We never asked for anything in return. We only wanted to see life grow, to watch new species take their first steps, to know that the universe would be full of wonder long after we were gone." "What happened?" Sung asked. "Why did you have to hide here?" Was quiet for a long moment. The other freed gathered closer, their eyes filled with old pain. "There is a species we call the harvesters," finally said. "They are machines, not living things but thinking machines that feed on organic matter. They travel from world to world, consuming everything alive. They do not hate, they do not love, they simply hunger." The harvesters discovered that they were the source of life in the galaxy. They decided that if they destroyed us, they could control all the worlds we had created. They could harvest life without anyone creating more. Sung stopped working. They hunted you. For 10,000 years, replied. One by one our great cities fell. Our home world burned. Our people scattered across the stars, hiding in places the harvesters would never think to look. She gestured at the frozen cavern around them. We chose this world because it was so cold. The harvesters cannot function in extreme temperatures. Their machines freeze and break. We thought we would sleep for 1 century, then move on. We did not expect to sleep for 400 years. Why did no one come looking for you? Sung asked. We told no one where we were going. If we had been captured, if the harvesters had read our minds, they would have found our hiding place. Eyes held infinite sadness. We chose to be forgotten. We thought it was safer than being found. Sung thought about his own choice to come to this frozen world. He had also wanted to be forgotten. He had also thought loneliness was safer than connection. I understand, he said quietly. Looked at him with curiosity. Tell me about yourself, human. Why are you here, alone on this dead world? Sung did not usually talk about his past, but something about his ancient eyes made him feel safe. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had watched species be born and die. His small human pain was nothing compared to her experience. Yet she listened with complete attention. I was a soldier, Sung said. During the Unification Wars, my unit was ambushed on a small moon far from Earth. 23 soldiers. I was the only survivor. He held up his metal arm. They gave me this to replace what I lost. They called me a hero. They gave me medals. But every night I heard my friends dying. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. So you ran, said, not judging, just understanding. So I ran. I thought if I went far enough, the memories would not follow. I thought if I was alone, I could not lose anyone else. He laughed bitterly. I came here to wait for death. I did not expect to find anything worth living for. Moved closer. Her scales were warm against the cold air. And now? Sung looked at the frozen children still trapped in the ice. He looked at the he had freed, weak but alive, watching him with gratitude. He looked at, ancient and wise, who had trusted a broken human with her people's survival. Now I have a reason to live again, he said. Bowed her head low, her snout nearly touching the ground. The other did the same. Among my people, said, her voice formal and powerful, there is no greater honor than to name a guardian. A guardian is someone who protects those who cannot protect themselves, someone who gives without expecting return, someone who holds life sacred above all else. She raised her head and looked directly into Sung's eyes. We have not named a guardian in 10,000 years. The last guardian died fighting the harvesters, buying time for our escape. Her voice trembled with emotion. Sung of Earth, survivor of wars, healer of the broken, will you accept the burden of our trust? Will you be our guardian? Sung felt tears forming in his eyes. For 3 years he had thought he was worthless, useless, a failure who should have died with his unit. Now these ancient beings who had created life across the galaxy were asking him to protect them. I will, he said, I accept. Every in the cavern raised their heads and sang. The sound was like nothing Sung had ever heard. It was beautiful and sad and hopeful all at once. It echoed off the ice walls and filled the entire cavern with music. And then his communication equipment exploded with incoming signals. Ships were arriving in orbit, lots of ships. Bai had come early, and she had not come alone. Bai's face appeared on Sung's screen, and she looked both excited and worried at the same time. I did something, she said quickly. I did something big, please do not be angry. What did you do? Sung asked, watching more and more ships appear in orbit on his sensors. I leaked everything, the video, the location, the discovery. I sent it to every news network, every science institution, every government in known space. Bai spoke fast like she was afraid he would interrupt. Within 6 hours, the story of the was everywhere. The whole galaxy knows what you found. Sung felt his stomach drop. Why would you do that? I wanted to help them quietly. Now everyone will come. Corporations, governments, military, they will want to study them, use them, control them. That is exactly why I did it, Bai replied. Sung, think about it. You are one man with broken equipment. You could not have saved them all. And even if you did, what then? Some corporation would have discovered them eventually. They would have taken them in secret, done whatever they wanted with no witnesses. She leaned closer to the screen. But now the whole galaxy is watching. Billions of people know they exist. News ships are broadcasting live from orbit. If anyone tries to hurt them now, everyone will see. They have become too famous to disappear. Sung wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He had been so focused on the immediate rescue that he had not thought about what would happen after. How many ships? He asked. 47 at last count. Research vessels, diplomatic cruisers, military escorts, news broadcasters. Bai smiled slightly. Also, I brought proper extraction equipment, medical teams, who specialize in hibernating species. We can save them all now, Sung. We can do this right. Over the following hours, shuttle after shuttle landed on IV. Sung watched the organized chaos from the cavern entrance, standing guard like he had promised. The first to arrive was Bai herself, leading a team of 20 scientists carrying equipment that made Sung's modified drills look like children's toys. They had precision lasers that could cut ice at the molecular level. They had medical pods that could stabilize the moment they woke. They had enough supplies to support the operation for months. You look terrible, Bai said, hugging Sung tightly. When did you last sleep properly? I do not remember, Sung admitted. That ends now, we have this, go rest. But Sung refused to leave. He stayed in the cavern, watching every extraction, making sure nothing went wrong. The freed gathered around him, treating him with a respect that made him uncomfortable. News reporters tried to interview him. He refused. Government officials tried to meet with him. He avoided them. Corporate representatives tried to offer him money. He ignored them. The only people he talked to were Bai and themselves. As more dragons woke from their long sleep, Sung learned their names and heard their stories. Each carried memories stretching back thousands of years. They remembered things no human history book contained. We watched your species take its first steps toward the stars, an elder named Dongha told him one evening. Dongha was the oldest of the survivors. His scales faded to pale silver with age. We were there when your first ship left Earth's system. We debated whether to make contact then. Why did you not? Sung asked. You were not ready. No species is ready when they first reach the stars. They need time to learn, time to grow, time to make mistakes and recover from them. Dongha's eyes held ancient wisdom. But we always believed your species would become something special. Why we are small, weak, we live such short lives. Dongha made a sound that might have been a laugh. Exactly. You are small, yet you dream of conquering galaxies. You are weak, yet you fight enemies that should destroy you. You live short lives, yet you build things meant to last forever. He looked at Sung with something like pride. You burn with a fire that never goes out. We have watched 1,000 species rise and fall. None of them were quite like humans. Weeks passed. The extraction continued smoothly. News coverage made the famous across human space. Children on Earth watched videos of the ancient dragons and dreamed of meeting them. Scientists published papers about biology. Philosophers debated what it meant to discover the species that had created life itself. And slowly the cavern emptied. Finally, only one dragon remained frozen. The child. She was still trapped in the center of the cavern, surrounded by the thickest ice. The crack from Sung's accident had stopped just short of her scales, but it had made the ice around her unstable. Extracting her would require extreme care. They ran hundreds of simulations on their computers. They studied vital signs through the ice. They calculated every possible approach. Every simulation ended the same way. Her scales have become too thin, Bai explained to Sung, her voice heavy with grief. 400 years of hibernation should not have been possible for someone her age. Her body was not mature enough. She survived by drawing resources from her own scales, making them weaker and weaker. What does that mean? Sung asked, though he already knew the answer. It means we cannot extract her safely. Any disturbance to the ice will crack her scales. Any temperature change will shock her system. Bai could not meet his eyes. I am so sorry, Sung. We cannot save her. We will lose her at the very end. Sung looked its frozen form. Her mouth was still open in that silent scream. Her eyes, visible through the ice, still held fear and hope mixed together. No, he said. Sung, we tried everything. The simulations are clear. There is no way to. Then we find a way the simulations did not consider. His voice was hard as iron. I did not come this far. I did not work this hard. I did not become their guardian just to fail at the last moment. He walked toward the ice where was trapped, and he began to think. There had to be another way. There was always another way. He refused to let this child die alone in the cold. Sung called an emergency meeting. Scientists, doctors, military officers, and corporate representatives all gathered in a heated tent near the cavern entrance. The freed watched from the sides, their ancient eyes full of worry. There must be another way, Sung said. Tell me everything you know about biology. There must be something we missed. Dongha, the elder dragon, spoke slowly. Our people can control heat. We can move thermal energy from one place to another. In ancient times, we used this gift to warm frozen worlds and cool burning ones. Can you use that ability now? Bai asked. Can you somehow stabilize while we extract her? We are too weak from hibernation. 400 years of sleep has drained us. Dongha's scales dimmed with shame. To generate enough thermal control to protect, we would need to draw energy from somewhere else, from a living source. The tent went silent. You mean someone would have to give their body heat to, Sung said. It was not a question. Yes, a warm-blooded creature would need to be connected to our thermal network. We would channel their heat into keeping her stable while the extraction happens. Dongha looked away. The process would be extremely dangerous. The donor would experience severe hypothermia. Their heart could stop. Their organs could fail. But they might survive, Sung pressed. Humans have survived extreme cold before. If medical teams were ready, if the transfer was controlled carefully. Dongha shook his head. But the risk is enormous. No one could be asked to do this. I will do it, Sung said. The argument that followed was loud and long. Bai shouted at him, calling him foolish and stubborn. The military officers pointed out that he was now famous across the galaxy, and his death would cause political problems. The corporate representatives worried about liability. Tried to talk him out of it. Guardian, please, you have already given so much. We cannot ask you to give your life. You are not asking, Sung replied. I am choosing. He waited until everyone had finished yelling. Then he spoke quietly, and something in his voice made everyone listen. 3 years ago, I came to this frozen world to die. I had given up on everything, on life, on hope, on myself. He looked around at the faces watching him. Then I found a purpose again. I found a reason to keep living. He pointed toward the cavern where was still frozen. That child has been trapped in ice for 400 years. She has never seen the stars. She has never felt warm sunlight. She has never known anything except fear and cold and waiting. His voice cracked with emotion. I accepted the burden of being their guardian. That was not just words. That meant something. It means I protect them, all of them, even if it costs me everything. He looked at Dong-ha, at all that he had come to love. I am not going to let her die alone in the cold, not when I can do something, not when there is even a small chance. No one argued after that. The procedure began an hour later. Sung lay on a medical bed next to the ice that held. The had created special connectors from their own shed scales, thin threads that could transfer heat between living things. They attached these threads to Sung's skin, connecting him to their thermal network. "Are you ready?" Dongha asked. Sung looked its frozen face one last time. Her eyes were still wide with fear, but soon, if everything worked, those eyes would open. She would breathe. She would live. "Do it," he said. They began to sing, the same beautiful, sad song they had sung when they named him Guardian. But this time, the song had power behind it. Sung felt something pulling at him, drawing warmth from his body like water draining from a bathtub. The cold hit him immediately. It was worse than anything he had experienced on this frozen planet. It was cold from the inside, spreading through his blood, his muscles, his bones. His teeth chattered. His body shook. His cybernetic arm shut down completely as its circuits froze. Through blurring vision, he watched the ice around begin to glow. The song grew louder, channeling his heat into the child. The ice started to melt, not from external warmth but from thermal energy flowing directly into his fragile body. The medical monitors screamed warnings. Sung's heart rate dropped. His blood pressure fell. His core temperature passed the point where most humans would lose consciousness. But he forced himself to stay awake. He kept his eyes on. The ice around her cracked. Not dangerously this time, but naturally, breaking apart as her body finally generated enough warmth to push outward. Her scales flushed with color, purple and silver and gold mixing together like a sunrise. Her eyes blinked. Her mouth closed, and then opened again to speak. "Guardian," the word was small and scared, in a language older than human civilization. But Sung's translator somehow understood it. "I am here," he tried to say, but his voice would not work. The cold had taken too much. His vision was going dark. His heart was stuttering. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was his voice, calling out to him with a word that needed no translation. "Guardian." Sung woke in a hospital ship 3 weeks later. Bai was sitting beside his bed, her eyes red from crying and lack of sleep. "You absolute idiot," she said, but she was smiling. Sung asked. His voice was rough and weak. "She is fine, better than fine. She has been sitting outside your door every day, refusing to leave." Bai laughed. "The doctors had to bring her special heating pads because she kept making the hallway too cold." As if summoned by her name, the door opened. A small dragon squeezed through, her scales shimmering with excited colors. She was barely larger than a dog, just as Sung remembered. But now her eyes were alive and bright and full of joy. Climbed onto his bed and curled up against his chest. Her scales were warm now, warmer than any blanket. She made a small sound of contentment. "She has been waiting for you," said, appearing in the doorway. The elder dragon's eyes glistened with tears. "We have all been waiting." Over the following months, Sung recovered fully. His cybernetic arm was repaired with new technology gifted by the. His body healed. His nightmares, strangely, began to fade. When he closed his eyes now, he did not see his dead friends. He saw his face when she first woke up. He saw hope instead of death. The established formal relations with humanity. They offered to help terraform new worlds, to share their ancient knowledge, to work together toward a future where both species could thrive. In exchange, humanity agreed to help them search for other survivors scattered across the galaxy. It was the beginning of a new age. Historians would later call it the second seeding, when humanity stopped reaching for the stars alone and gained allies who remembered when those stars were young. But Sung did not think about history. He stood on the observation deck of a ship, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. The planet looked beautiful from space, blue and white and green. Perched on his shoulder, her favorite spot, she had bonded with him completely, refusing to leave his side for more than a few minutes. The scientists said it was unprecedented. They said it was destiny. "Are you nervous?" asked, gliding up beside him. Tomorrow, Sung would address the United Earth Parliament. He would speak about cooperation, about hope for the future. "I am terrified," he admitted. Made her musical laughing sound. "You faced death to save a child. You endured cold that would have killed any other human, and you are afraid of giving a speech." "Speeches are harder than dying," Sung said and chirped in agreement. He looked at Earth, at the blue oceans where life had first begun, at the planet that had produced a species crazy enough to answer a distress signal on a frozen world, and stubborn enough to save ancient dragons from the ice. He had come to IV to die. Instead, he had found family. "We are going to be okay," he said softly, nuzzled against his neck. And for the first time in years, he truly believed it.